not allowed to say Nazi, SS, Gestapo, or Hitler because it would offend all the decent, moderate Germans. That's how crazy it is today. It's completely out of control. It's insane. It is an infiltration process. It's not something that's theoretical. It's very well known that the second generation of immigrants are often more radical than their parents. Often the sons go to the mosque and they're taught that their parents are backers and backsliders, and if they want to, return to the true faith, they have to become jihadists. So I don't care if this guy Mateen was born in the United States to Afghan radicals. He's even more radical. And when I watch television, I was watching MSNBC last night. They were interviewing the imam from the guy's Fort Pierce Mosque, and the MSNBC interviewer was looking at him like he was looking at, Reverend Jones or Father Flannery or, Rabbi Schwartz. Like, oh, really? When the guy's saying, oh, it's a sin to lie, that's a lie. In Islam, it's not a sin to lie to an infidel. Anything that you do to help the spread of Islam is good, halal. Anything you do against Islam is forbidden, haram. Truth and lie has nothing to do with it. So these people can look right in our face and say, I am a moderate Muslim. I am against Sharia. Well, you don't know if that's true or not. But if they're wearing the Abe Lincoln chin beard and they've got a Muhammad, skull cap on, and they're wearing traditional garb and their wife's wearing a hijab or a burqa, they believe in Sharia. They believe the whole package. And I'd like to say a lot more about that, but I really want to go to this attack in Orlando because a lot of things don't add up and don't make sense to me. There are some things that I'm waiting for these brainiacs on the mainstream media to ask a few questions. They're starting to ask, why did it take 3 hours when after Columbine, the policy became to the first responders just go in and disrupt.
So I'm right when I say, storm immediately.
Absolutely. There's a hero, an American hero. There should be statues of this guy. And I'm ashamed because I forgot to write down the notes. I believe his name was something like Luke Woodley, but this was in Oregon, like in the 80s or early 90s. A nut came into his high school, a student with a semi-automatic 22, with an extended clip on a Ruger 1022. And he started shooting up the cafeteria. And the hero, I believe his name is Luke, and I hope I'm not naming the wrong guy, but the hero charged the guy when he was reloading, when he was switching mags, and he took bullets. He was going to go to college like on a wrestling scholarship. It wrecked his life, but he saved many lives. And that's what you have to do, whether you're in church or a nightclub. Personally, I don't go to killing zones like that. No exit nightclubs. It could be a fire like the Whitesnake concert or a stampede like
Great
the
White,
concert. Great White. I just don't like going to these places where you're basically at the mercy of a herd instinct that can get, like a buffalo stampede off a cliff. Personally, I don't like that. Now, even if I'm in church, though, I'm looking around. I do consider myself the sheepdog, even though I've been out of the military for decades and decades. I do consider myself the sheepdog, and I don't expect everybody else to,
Well, sure. What do you make of and I saw the Attorney General and others congratulating themselves for what they did, and I guess that is the big scandal I haven't talked enough about. 3 hours?
And what about the security guard? That nightclub, the Pulse Club, needs to get their money back from that off-duty police officer. Now, I haven't heard anything about a dead police officer, but if you're a sheepdog and a wolf with, bloody fangs runs into your herd of sheep, there should be either a dead wolf or a dead sheepdog. He was there with a gun and a bulletproof vest and a badge. What happened to him? How come we're not interviewing him to find out what happened? Why wasn't he, either he's got an empty magazine and he's out of all reloads and he's there on the floor with the people he was being paid to protect. I'm sorry, even if I'm at church and I've got nothing on me, you have to charge the guy. You have to. Even if one guy gets up to charge, it'll give courage to the others. Then if the guy's getting bum rushed from 3 or 4 directions, you're going to take him out. The guy in Oregon, and I hope it might be Washington. Somebody can look it up.
I remember the story. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows about it. Keep going.
The guy bum rushed him by himself, took bullets, but he took the guy down. Now, they're reporting from inside this nightclub that he was changing magazine after magazine after magazine. that's when you have to do it. If you see how tightly the bodies are compressed in there, it would be hard for a hero across the room to do anything, obviously. But still, it's disconcerting that, you know, that there was no rush made, or maybe it was ineffective. For all we know, there are tons of heroes in there dead that did try to do it. So I don't want to say anything about that. But
notice they always try to target liberal areas where people are disarmed because they know there's a tendency not to fight back.
Yeah, they're not going to do it at an NRA convention, I guarantee you. But yeah, or a gun show, or you know, a NASCAR you know, car rally. It's not going to, you know, a custom car rally. It's not going to happen there because everybody's packing.
It's not going to happen at a motorcycle rally. Now, I want to come back from break and get into the geopolitical issues here, but you predicted an increase in these attacks. You called it Tet 2. Let's talk about your predictions now.
Yeah, are we going to break now? Or?
In a few minutes, but let's start talking about predictions now.
Yeah, it's the pheromone, the insect communication pheromone analogy is perfect. And what they're hoping is that each matin is going to spur more of these radical Islamist nutcases to go off. I'm not as sure as you are that there are active cells, you know, like the so-called, you know, card-carrying ISIS members. There doesn't need to be. This is much more like a swarm of jellyfish or stinging insects that are communicating by the chemical pheromone. So as, you know, success breeds success in their ideology. So I would expect to see, you know, more of these because it works. And also, as far as the guns go, it's important to keep in mind, this is not the worst mass murder at a nightclub. It's the worst mass shooting at a nightclub. The worst mass murder happened in the Bronx in 1990 when a guy got thrown out of the Happy Land Social Club nightclub, you know, an unlicensed nightclub. So it didn't have like good fire escapes, things like that. He came back with a little, like a 2-gallon jug of gasoline, spread it around the front entrance, lit it up, and 87 people were burned to death. Now, if Martini's a security guard, so he's thinking guns, but if he just smashed into the front, you know, with a barrel of gasoline on the front of a truck, he would have killed all 300 people inside. No question.
Absolutely, and that's something the globalists should know. If they think they're just going to take our guns and then have some war against the American people and win, all the real fighters in this country know that a car or gasoline or just all these other weapons are more powerful, you know, going up against large groups of people than firearms. So, you know, Hillary and all these people need to understand that.
If Hillary Clinton wants to start a second civil war, all she needs to do is move to take away our Second Amendment rights. Because when they come to take away your Second Amendment rights, that's when you use them. There's a great quote by Solzhenitsyn about how they burned when they were in the Gulag camps later, because they just let these KGB or MVD, whatever they were called at the time, GRU, they just let them come up into their high-rise apartments, grab people out of an apartment, haul them off. And they didn't attack their paddy wagon, their Black Maria paddy wagons. They didn't attack the KGB guys in the stairwells with axes if they had to. There are not enough federal law enforcement agents to even make a dent. Any federal law enforcement agents, as I like to say, the boys and girls down in the fusion centers who are watching me right now, you have got to make a decision, because if you go with team tyranny and you in any way go out for gun confiscation against American citizens, you are a domestic enemy of the Constitution, and we will shoot you right back.
Well, I'll say this. They have openly sided with the globalists who've sided with radical Islam. There should be no debating the fact that this country has been hijacked and we have occupiers just like Vichy French in control. Stay with us. And I tell you, I'm not up here trying to be shocking. I'm not up here trying to be sensational. Reality is so much crazier than fiction. We're going to go back to our guests in a moment. It's so profound that the exact same plan in Europe and here in the U.S. is being carried out, where our governments and the socialist left, backed by all these big trillion-dollar companies, are getting rid of the borders, advertising to bring in the most radical Muslims you can, allowing them to attack, and then declaring civil emergency in Europe and arresting people by the thousands. that even try to march or criticize what's happening or hand out flyers. I've had reporters in Germany for a week and a half. They're still there. They're at migrant camps right now, filing those reports. And the German police and everybody just run over. The security guards threaten them when they just try to videotape the refugee center. There's an arrogance at the train station, by the Muslims, everybody. They're just used to everybody bowing down. How they got Europeans to be so cowardly and pathetic is I guess they arrest you. They arrested Marie Le Pen for saying France faces the biggest threat to its survival since the Nazi invasion. And of course, it was the Vichy French, for those that don't know the history of it. Most of the general staff had been paid off by the Nazis. They didn't like the government they already had. And the French stood down. And the British Expeditionary Force had to basically get pushed to the sea at Dunkirk. And they had a secret treaty with the British. The Nazis did. That's why they stopped the bombing of a lot of the ships as they tried to get away. But that's all lost in the fog of history. Obviously, the British then broke that treaty, as the Germans had pretty much broken it. And the Deputy Fuhrer, Rudolf Hess, flew into England and parachuted in with the treaty and the rest of them. They locked him up in the tower. But I'm digressing. The Vichy French, for me, are the biggest example of globalism. Because people think so much of warfare is armies lining up and countries battling each other. But so much of it is infiltrating the other governments and paying people off. Like most of the Iraqi government and military was paid off pre-1991 during Desert Shield, because the CIA had put Saddam and a lot of those guys in power, so they had infiltrators all over the place. And they were telling people, hey, there's $20 million in your Swiss bank account, General. All you got to do is, once that night happens, is get out of there and get to this point. We'll have a helicopter land and get you. And they did do that. You're going to be retiring in Switzerland. And the general will be like, but what do I do? My family. Have your kids there. Have your wife there. Just don't bring too much stuff. Well, that's the same thing went on with France. That's what globalism is. They come in, they take over your government. They come in, they take over your institutions, and then it's a soft coup. They're there. And then they open the borders up and start bringing in all these jihadis. I just don't see why, if the globalists already had control of the U.S. and Europe, why they would do something this insane. And it's because they literally hate the West. Obama and Hollande and all these people really want to see it gone. And you want to do that, you bring in 10% of the population Muslim, it's over. It is game over. Your society will be wrecked and dysfunctional forever. So we're going to go to our guest here in a moment and ask what he thinks from his Navy SEAL background, his research background, predicting this so accurately, what's coming next. And then we're going to open the phones up specifically on the shootings, on anomalies, on things you saw, on where you think this is going. What are the next targets? 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. All I ask is you have a good phone and that you be right to the point. Finally, I'm not going to belabor this. We have a great crew, but we've had some folks on vacation, and we've had some people out of town working on some TV deals we've got coming up. So I don't normally say we're going to have a special and then extend it a week or two. This literally fell through the cracks because the ads are still running. Even though I'm not supposed to be offering it this, it has to end today. It will end today. I called folks in and I said, why is this still airing? I said I'd run it for one more week when you didn't take it out last week. I mean, literally. So the Alexa Pure Breeze is an amazing 4-stage air filtration system. It gets out 99.99% of everything in a room of 800 square feet. It is only $249 regularly, but it's $184 introductory. And it's just super ergonomic, modern space-age design, 4 different filter technologies with the ion clusters, the first layer. It runs almost silent, and comparable units are $400, $500, in some cases $1,000. So at $249, it's a steal, and the profit we make funds the operation, but I like super sales, so you cannot find this deal anywhere. In fact, they premiered it here. It's the folks that make the Alexa Pure water filtration systems as well. You get 10% off of that, promo code WATER at checkout. But the Alexa Pure Breeze, this is the last day, I never have a sale falls through the cracks like this. I keep saying, this sale will end now. I said, fine. The guy that runs this is out of town for a week. We'll end it on Monday. Well, Monday's here. It's still up. So this is your last chance to save 26% total on something that's already the best deal out there in my view, and is really amazing. And then I've purchased 4 of them for my home personally, because there's so much in the air. And then finally, speaking of cleansing your body, living defense is 27 concentrated herbs like